What's up, everybody? Super excited to be here back at Adobe Live. I am Kladi, and I'm here with this brand new show that I'm so happy to join, Creative Kickoff. We're going to be kicking off the day together, and today we're going to be talking about logo and branding. What is the difference? How to elevate your work using Photoshop and in particular Illustrator as well. So let me know where you're watching from. If you are watching from YouTube, Behance, you're always welcome, and feel free to grab a cup of coffee and you will be available to watch this video back on replay on the amazing Adobe Live YouTube channel. We're about to jump right into Illustrator. So if you want to follow along, you can open the Illustrator app and work alongside me. I see Catherine, Daniel, and Oliver in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. So exciting to be here, and it's time to jump into my desktop. So Alejandro, lovely to see you as well. Let me know where are you watching from. I'm always very excited to see everybody joining in. Okay, so as I say, the topic of today is how to transform a logo into a brand. And I have a few resources. You know, I love to share resources with you. I have taken this logo that I've created for a co-working cafe, and this is the logo. So this is the actual logo itself, the vector format of the logo. I'm sure you're familiar with it. If you're wondering what is this gray box around it, this is the clear space, which is the safe space that is recommended to leave blank whenever using the logo. So if I have to add maybe a partner logo or an image, I will make sure, and I'm just gonna grab this color just to show you, I will make sure that I always leave this space that is outlined by the little arrows here, and of course the gray grid. This is the space between the end of the logo and of course any other element. So this is the logo itself, usually in vector form. Your nightmare clients are going to use it in JPEG with a white background, but let's go ahead and bring a little bit back in how we transform and use this vector logo into something that will develop a brand and will transform into a cohesive brand. Frank, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to see you here. Oh, I can see that my screen, you can only see a part of my screen. Well, we can adjust that live right away. I want to make sure that you see everything that I'm doing here. Sorry for that. It looks like my screen just kind of exploded inside the grid here. Just allow me a second and I'll be able to fix that for you. Let's see if we can make that happen. This is the beauty of the live and the beauty of working with a green screen. We can make all this magic happen. Apologies for that. Here we are. You can finally see my screen. And this is the logo that I was talking about. Perfect. Now, hopefully everybody can see it just right. Okay. Thankfully, it was just a quick intro. Okay. So this is the logo that I was mentioning before. And this is, of course, was the grid with the gray space around it. But I want to bring it a step back. So before building a logo, and of course, thinking about a brand of which the logo is just a summary and a representation, a mark in order to differentiate a brand in the market, something that is very, very important to develop a cohesive look for what is then a brand is research with the audience and the concept that is behind the brand. And that's how you start developing stuff like a color palette and much more. So this was an example of this particular logo. Of course, the audience for a co-working space was professional and freelancers between 20 and 50 years old. So you really want to understand the target, the audience that you're going to be designing for. This is so important when you start to develop a logo and a brand. And then, of course, you start with the different mood boards. Those are a collection of images and colors. And you can see here that I always like to have a little bit of a text as a reminder of what we're talking about. And if you want to know a little more, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in. So again, those are adjectives that allows me to research the images. And I wanted to share this process with you because, you know, this is sometimes overlooked, and we're all very good at sharing our beautiful work when it's final and polished. But those are the behind the scenes that really don't get shared a lot. So here you can see that I just have 3 paragraphs that simply describe my audience. So I know that my audience is a part of the creative, design, photography scene, and they have a passion for travel, adventure. And the reason why I like to start with words is because those will start to prompt my research. So when I start to do mood board and I then start to look into images, those are the words that I will use to then collect photography and images that then will then bring me into a color palette and the vibe and the mood. Now, let me know in chat if that ever happened to you. If you do use keywords, if you do write paragraphs, what is your process? This is the one that I suggest. And as I said, I do have some freebies and some goodies to give you. Let's go ahead and jump. If you head to my website, I'm Kladi.com, and then you head to the branding bundle, you here have all this step-by-step with foundation, with glossary, but most importantly, with a brand platform. So here is that where you can get all the questions to really get those wording and keywords out. And of course, there is a ton of free stuff here in terms of logo comparison. This is literally a branding bundle that I would suggest for anyone that is starting for branding to use. But this is how I develop this step-by-step to even start to get a sense of the brand. And you can quickly see that those are the colors that then I just literally used my color picker. So if you never used that in Illustrator before, all I do, I have a live shape, and then with the color picker that we can access with the letter I can simply go ahead and choose any color from the photographs here. And I just simply go ahead and start to try different color palettes. So I will start to bring in a color from a background and so on, and just simply start to build these different color options. Now, whenever I work with a client, with an art director, I never have one single option. And that's why I, try to think about who is my audience and how I can, diversify it and divide it in different segments, so I can also start to highlight different aspects of it. And that's why, here you see I have different examples and different colors. Of course, we only have 25 minutes together, and I want to show you something a little bit more technical, like mood boards and patterns, and how to quickly create that with Illustrator and Photoshop. So I kind of done this behind the scene as well, but I wanted to share with you because this is very important in the way that you analyze the concept, and also this inform your relationship with a client or your art director. If I just go ahead and show this color palette and I'm like, hey, those are the colors that I'm using for my brand, your client or your art director will be like, why were you using this color? But when you have showing that you actually done your homework, studying the audience, studying the concept of this particular business, everything makes sense. You're sort of showing each single steps that then leads to the different choices that you made with the brand. I can see RB in the chat. What's up? So long to see you. Frank, I'm so glad that you love learning the behind the scene. Robert, Jack, so lovely to see you here. Okay, so as you can see, those are some of the steps that I literally go into. And you see that the question that I ask myself that you will find in the foundation, and by the way, if you just tune in, I'm Kladi.com/resources. That's you find the foundation with the questionnaire to have all this information for your concept and audience analysis. I start to imagine not only who this, who my audience is, who's the, of course, the company audience are, but also where they live. First, I think about who they are, what they like doing, because of course you want to create a brand, not a logo, but a brand that is more familiar. And you can then use it into your logo by adding a color palette that reflects these elements that are familiar with your audience. And that's where the transformation from a logo, which is what we initially saw at the very beginning here, into a more complete brand start to become alive. And of course, then it translates into a full color palette, which is then applied to the logo. And of course, here we can see that we have different elements from the mood board. As we've seen before, I introduced it like a shape, and of course the color, and then the break of the text to make it interesting, because we know that for this particular company, it's not about the logo, it's about just making them feel familiar and resonate with what they enjoy and with their environment. So something that is got like, someone that will have an eye for design, it will definitely be attracted by the color palette, but also by having this logo that is a little bit more playful and definitely speak about, a design, or someone that had a little bit more of a design eye into the creation of the brand. So this is the big differentiator, and that's why I wanted to start from the logo. So this is like a standard, the very starting point of the development of the logo. And then slowly we added this color palette. Again, if you're wondering where this color palette is coming from, why I've selected this color, well, here you have all the different walkthrough. Now, if you want to experiment, as I said, I'm going to start into creating a mock-up in just a second. But if you want to create like a little bit more of a step-by-step and really experiment behind this concept, there is actually a link that I might place in chat in just a second that you can access inside your Creative Cloud subscription. I worked with Adobe to create a course about concept, and I thought that that was perfect. I'm just going to drop it in the chat here. Oops, I think that is a little bit too long, but you can find it inside the Learn path. Let's see if that works. That should be able to work. If not, I'll make sure to add that in the comment afterwards. And here you have a different video that really, talks you through conveying the emotion, using pattern to reinforce the concept, and creating a color palette from a mood board, making the designer accessible, and, conceptual just tips in order to develop your skills. So I just wanted to give you different tools that are beyond this particular live that you can then take into the app. And I believe that those then are also tutorials within Illustrator. You'll find all the information inside the link. Okay, so another step once we have the different elements is also to think about stuff like social media. Like, how do we use and how will we use this logo inside social media? CJ, thank you for sharing the correct logo, the correct link. You can go ahead and click there and you'll see. So, I start to think about social media right away in order to transform and extend my logo into a full cohesive brand. I love to use dark backgrounds because they really make, as the clients love to say, the logo pop. That means that the logo will stand out. But of course, we can always create a couple of different options here by creating multiple artboard that will allow me to see, how does it look like? And also that can be a great proposal. But the beauty of using a logo and having a logo that is translated into a brand is that you can go and simply use these elements and reuse the elements as many times as you want. So here, this is something that perhaps I will use with social media, and you can create different variation. You can quickly pick up color, that will definitely stand out. By the way, for social media and for the avatar, I tend to use a 120 by 120 avatar. And I always, despite the fact that it's a round circle, our little avatar, I always start with a square image just to make sure that, then is covering all the area of the avatar and nothing gets lost. And the same for Instagram story. As you know, our vertical format is 1920 by 1080. Quickly create your artboard. 180 by 1920. Of course, that's vertical. And then here, what I love to do is to start to create some frame that we can quickly export. And then, we can start using some elements of the brand, even in a more playful way. Now, always make sure to hold the Alt key. Otherwise, you'll see that it gets, you don't get a good translation of the design. And even something, something simple, just like that, will work in order to be used as a PNG that goes under your picture. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab one of these photos over here. So this one looks like a little bit more of a co-working space. So just to give you an idea of how then I use these elements. Let's say that that's the picture that I want to share on social media. I have an idea that that could be a background for my photo. And if I head into my trim view, I can quickly have a preview of the way it looks like. Now, the beauty of having a flexible color palette is that if that color doesn't work because of, we have some blue here in the image, and we have some yellow here. I always can experiment with a broader color palette, and same for any element of the logo and the logo itself. And that's, you see, that's when the transformation is starting to happen, and you can have as much fun as you want. Now I'm just editing one variation, but of course you can create multiple copies. You can see, you know, different way that works with the image. Now that was just an example. Frank said the file doesn't open on my side. So the link was just a website, so don't worry about it. I'll definitely place a link in the YouTube replay as well, so you can add on the Adobe Live replay. But now, besides creating social media assets, and besides creating a color palette and choosing a font and having mood board, how do we extend our brand? As I said, I wanted to jump real quick into creating a mockup, and let's go ahead into Photoshop. This is simply a picture that I've created, and I want to show you how easy it is. So what I tend to use here is our crop tool, and in particular that perspective crop tool. That is my best friend. I make sure that I delete any other layer here, because the crop tool and the perspective crop tool doesn't really like any other layers such as marked object or any other that is not rasterized. And what I do here, now those are a few steps, but you really want to be laser focused. I know we have just a few minutes for this. What I do is that I click at every corner. So let's say here that I want to use, you know, I want to put the logo on this bag to really showcase how it will look like for our store, and how flexible it is, and really bring this brand together. And then I can go ahead and press enter. So what I've done, I click once on each corner of my bag, and then once I click enter, you see that I have, from the perspective crop tool, it opens up on a different artboard by itself, and this is just the area, just flattens the area that I selected in perspective. So what I do here, you use the Control A, and you see the marching end around the selection to select the point all around, so all the area of this pixel. Press Command C to copy, and then Control Z to just go back to the original photo. Now that we're back at the original photo, Control V is the shortcut to like paste this area, and now I want to make sure that I transform these into a smart object. If we haven't worked with smart object before, they will become your best friend, because what they do is that they preserve the original look of my pixels. So in this case, it will preserve the flat area, but then I can just simply transform it and modify, and I want to make sure that I place it as it was in perspective. Now, perhaps if you have a little bit more time, a best way of doing so is to knock the opacity down a little bit, just to make sure that it's fairly in place. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to, you know, give you an idea of how we work with picture and with perspective, because I want to, you know, you can create your own mockup, and really, depending, you can create your own picture. Maybe it's a photo that you take at the actual location of your company. Now, once we double click on the smart object, it opens up a different file, and here we can go ahead and hide the original pixels, because those are just part of the picture. We don't need it. And we have a couple options. We can either simply copy one of the version of the logo. I'm gonna search for this red one first and just simply copy, or we can use our amazing libraries. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new libraries. I'm gonna call it Office. Oops, definitely cannot spell when I'm going fast. And I can simply drop this version of the logo, or any version of the logo, in fact, inside my Creative Cloud library. And hopefully we'll update real quick, and we'll be able to find it right away inside Photoshop. So once I head into Photoshop, again, I can either simply copy and paste. Remember, that's always an option. But we can also use our amazing libraries. Let's see. I know that we're running out of time. We just have literally 3 minutes left, but here it is. Our latest library, Office, is there right away, updated with the logo that we just added. I can simply drag my logo here. And remember, we're working on a flat surface. Those were the pixels that we have cropped, and then we have preserved into a smart object. Now, once I press enter, and of course I use Control S to save, or Control W to close, and I head back into my picture. Are you ready for the magic? Boom, the logo is there. Now, of course, we knock the transparency down so we cannot really see it. But it's there inside our perspective. And if you're wondering, hey, but we still have things like shadows. Well, We can use the multiply blend mode to make sure that we absorb the texture. And then you can also say, but what if we have discord? Well, we can use our amazing mask, and as we know, white reveals and black conceals, and we can simply erase by painting in black the areas that we do not wish to show. And again, because we are working with a mask, we're not deleting the logo, we're not deleting any part of the logo. And again, I will strongly recommend you here to zoom in. I'm going quickly because I want to show you, a quick result here, but if I would have to do this for a final presentation, I would definitely zoom in and look at that. Because we're working with a mask, I can at any point turn that back into white and make sure that everything that needs to be around our little cord is there. And look at that. It took us, what? Less than a minute to create this realistic mockup. Now, there are so many different ways to create mockup. We have also the amazing mockup tool inside Illustrator. But what I love here is the flexibility for you to really make your logo stand out by representing something that is relevant for your company. And therefore, it speaks for the brand. Of course, you can do that for any other part, so we can do the same for the box. Remember, all you have to do is to use the perspective crop tool, and then you can go ahead and, pretty much, oops, let me go ahead and bring this back to life. You can, add any other element from Illustrator, from your Creative Cloud library directly inside your packaging. But look at the difference from having a flat black and white logo into having something that is inside the packaging. If you take your own picture of the company that you're working on, I can see Sean saying, why no mockup inside Illustrator? Well, I don't think we have the time to show that. Let me see if I can real quick. A list is definitely worth to mention. There is the option to use the mockup beta inside Illustrator. Let's go ahead and bring up the mockup window here. It's still in beta. It's wonderful to use. We have our lovely Paul sharing all the assets, and it's very, very easy. All you have to do is to select one of the logo and then click on mockup, and you have it there. That is incredibly easy to use, and that's why I was so, easy to do it, even if we had like a moment left. And you see we have a different aspect. But Sean, if you're asking why, the reason why I wanted to show Photoshop is because I want to enable anyone to develop their logo into a brand within their own tools, so by using their own pictures. And I think that you have a fantastic way of using the mockup beta. You've seen how quickly and easy it was. And of course, again, you can do into something like packaging here. And we have our lovely coffee cup and our packaging there, which is great. And is great for stuff like presentation in particular. So if you are looking to quickly present that, but if you are actually working with your own photography, I think that it makes it even more true to a brand and really bring the logo to life and bring the company to life thanks to a branding that speaks the same language and the same visual. So I would strongly recommend to take your own authentic photo, and now you have the tool and you have the skills with Photoshop to do so. So just a quick recap, because we have literally pretty much a minute to go. Of course, we have there's pattern coming right after me with the creative challenge in Illustrator, which is literally happen in a few minutes. So just to have a quick recap here, the difference between a logo and a brand is that the logo is the marking and is the symbol that we'll use to represent a company. And then it develops and it opens up into a brand once we transfer the concept behind the company into visual. And that means representing its audience, its values, and its environment through the use of colors and typography and patterns and mockups. And of course, a ton of research that I will recommend everybody to do, because foundation in branding are the core. And that's why I called my freebies, for those of you that have just joined, I call my my branding kit a foundation, because again, this is the foundation. The brand platform is the foundation, is the beginning. Ask these questions, where you're looking to go, who is your audience, what do they like, and of course, mood board, and then the implementation of the color palette, and of course, use on social media and on photography. That also shows the flexibility and how strong your brand is. Unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye. I cannot believe how fast this live goes. I look forward to be with you very, very soon. And that went way too quick. Don't forget to watch the replay. Stay tuned on Adobe Live on YouTube and Behance. There is a ton of amazing content coming your way. So please stay tuned and don't forget to reach out. I'm always on Instagram at I am Kladi, and I look forward to see you there. Bye everyone. Thank you for joining.